How's it going, guys? Baldur here, and I am going to be doing a tutorial. This is going to be a basic tutorial, and when I say basic, I mean absolutely basic. I'm going to show you the minimum requirements needed to start a 737 and get it up in the air. It's not going to be something like a 1-minute DCS. If you want something like that, I would suggest checking out a wonderful YouTuber called Lavi, but without a doubt, I believe it is time for us to get started. Alright, first thing you want to do is turn on the battery, close the cover, and then that will provide enough power to get the basic system started, such as the fuel pumps, which you will click right here. Once you get the fuel pumps on, then what you can do is start up the APU. The APU is a jet fuel powered generator. Pull this down, hold it for about 2 or 3 seconds, and this will get the APU running. You'll start seeing the exhaust gas temperature meter spool up. This will show you that the APU is working, so we will wait for that to get up and running. As you can see, it's slowly rising. So the overhead panel above that, you will see a blue light flash where it says APU Gen. Once that is illuminated, you will turn that on as such. This will provide power to the entire aircraft along with providing bleed air, which I will discuss later. So, once you do this, you want to turn on the window heaters. This isn't necessary for takeoff, but it is a step that's normally performed. But what is definitely necessary are the bleed valves. So you want to turn the APU bleed. The gauge up above will show you how much air is flowing through the system. If I were to turn on packs, which provide air to the cabin, you'll notice that it'll go down. You will actually need those to be off in order to start the engines. You'll turn on the bleed valves for both engines, turn on the rest of the fuel pumps, twist the engine to ground. Usually you start the number 2 engine on a 737, but you can start the number 1 engine instead. Wait until you get about 20% N1. Once that spools up, you will then turn on the fuel cutoff as such. So once that stabilizes, you are good to go. You can turn on the generator as such. Then you can turn on the other engine as well. So same thing as before, you have to wait for that 20% N1. Also, assuming that you don't have an APU and you need an air start, you can turn on one engine, and that one engine can provide enough bleed air for you to get the other engine running. It'll also provide enough power as well. So both engines are now on. Everything looks like that is up and running. Perfect. Obviously, wait for the engines to stabilize. Turn on the power. Turn off the APU at this point. And then turn on the packs. I mean, you do need to breathe after all. Turn off the bleed valve for the APU. And I have no idea what the gas per fan is, and it is not in every single 737. If someone can tell me, please do. Last thing you want to do, or maybe first thing you want to do, is galleys, but that's not too important if you just want to get it up and running in the air. After all that is said and done, you set the flaps to 15, and you turn on the yaw dampener. Alright, this will allow you the proper flap configuration for takeoff. While taxiing for takeoff, there are several things you need to take into consideration. One of them is to make sure that you use the proper amount of thrust. You'll accelerate a little bit to get the plane rolling, but then you will want to tone it down. Once the plane is rolling, you will have adequate power from the lowered setting to keep it moving. Now, this is a very short runway, so instead of using the just a little bit of a runway, I'm actually going to turn in here go around and then use the entirety of the runway. The thing about the 737 and really all jets in general is that they do tend to take up a lot of runway. The only exception to that might be the Saab Viggen. Once you're ready to take off, you will want to move the trim until this needle gets into the green zone. This is the takeoff trim. Once that is ready, you are good to go. There are some other things as well, such as you'll want to turn the engines onto FLT, stuff like that. Want to turn on the landing lights. I did not turn on the engines to FLT, which is pretty much a starter or an emergency restart in case something bad happens, to the best of my knowledge. But anyway, you will be moving, taxiing all the way. Try to make sure that you get onto the center line as much as possible, and if you somehow miss the center line, like a certain person, me, then try to keep it as straight as possible. Do not overcorrect, and do not overcorrect just for the sake of making it back to the center line. You want to ease in the throttle a little bit. Once that is set up, then you will put in full-ish power, not all the way. You will want to get about 92% N1 for this. So airspeed will come alive. Generally, you will have certain specific takeoff speeds, but in general, for a 737, you want it to be 130 knots. 140 or 50 knots if you have an engine failure. So once you get to about 130 knots, it would be about time to rotate. And there we go. So we have to wait for the positive climb to make sure that we bring our gear up. Once we have that, the gear goes up. And yeah, it's a very short runway for this airport, but once you get that up and running, you are good to go. So we're airborne, we're in the air. Make sure that you are pitched properly between 20 and 15. Once you raise the flaps, you want to pitch your nose down a little bit more. That'll help you gain airspeed and, in return, help you climb out. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. I'd say it would be short and to the point, and if you like this, tell me in the comment section below, and I will certainly do more of this. Anyway, you guys, have a good one.